Floor is yours.
Hey, this is the Burn It Down NASCAR podcast. Post Daytona, first race of the year. What'd you think?
Uh, um, I didn't mind it. I liked it, but they'd made there was a couple drivers not complaining, but had some really good points, and it's true. They only raced really 20 laps out of that whole race.
Yeah, as far as jockeying for position and stuff.
They're saving fuel. He says Daytona has never been a fuel saving race, and we were saving fuel the whole time. Why are we? Every race is why are we saving fuel? And that has become a fuel saving race, anymore. Before it used to be a few because that's how it was, but like it's everything now because they've made these fuel cells everything the same, and they make these stage races that. So in and it's true because when they looked at the speed and the throttle, they're going like 60 to 75% full throttle besides the first guy in first. The leader.
The leaders.
Yeah. So it's like so they're not full throttle, so they're not giving you the full race, they're not giving you their full car. And the only time we went full throttle was at the end of stages for whatever, and then at the end of the race where they have to go for the win. And that's when the wrecks happened. I get it, you're trying to survive, but also we shouldn't have Daytona be come down to saving fuel of a race. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be.
Now it's the product of these cars right now.
Easy fix. Make him a bigger tank. That's an easy fix. Like, I don't understand why. I don't know.
I got another easy fix. Take the goddamn stages away. Quit it. And then they won't, because it's all strategy.
Yeah, based on strategies on the stages, yeah.
It's based on strategy. All right, we got to run this amount, burn this amount of fuel, so we only have to pit one time in this stage.
Yeah.
And they're doing the old school road course strategy now in almost every race. They race backwards. They see what they need, what their how many laps they figure out how many laps you can get out of a fuel tank,
Yeah.
a full tank, and then they work backwards. So, and they start at the end of the race, lap 200, and it's okay. We're getting 30 to 35 laps per tank, and they work it backwards, and that's their strategy. And then they factor in the stages when they're doing that.
Yep.
And I agree. I never had thought. I mean, I noticed during the race that they, Harvick and Boyer were commenting a lot on the throttle. They kept showing the percentages, and a lot of times they were running 50%, and then like
if you're in the pack, you're running. There's times I've seen drivers out there running 30% throttle. Like, that's not Daytona. Daytona is full throttle, fast as you go, and it just wasn't it. Like, because they're trying to save fuel, and like that's not Daytona racing.
Yeah, they're playing the stages, and that I think if you remove stage racing, they will go back because they figure, all right, now we got to run it from the front, which means we got 35 laps of fuel, and let's just go, and we'll break it down to. We know we're going to do 5 or 6 pit stops.
They can leave the stages in for their points, but don't go yellow. You know what I'm saying? Just keep them stages, but as in say, hey, you want 65 laps to be the stage points? Just you're racing to that, and then whoever's first goes, but it stays green. It keeps going. So it's not an automatic yellow.
Automatic pit stop.
Yeah.
All right, I could get on board with that, but I hate stage racing.
Well, if they want to keep they want to keep the stage points for stage racing because they want to use those points for the playoffs. So you can keep it, but just don't go yellow. Don't throw a caution for stages. Let them pit whenever.
You just brought up something else I wanted to talk about. But keep going. What else did you?
everybody was kind of, not everybody, there was a lot of people pissed off at Ross. Not me. Go for it, bud. Go for it. He's trying to cut the gap that many other drivers have, and he just didn't get it. And if he would have won. He had the momentum. He would have passed Byron. But it's just, he just couldn't cut the gap quick enough, and that was it.
Well, I got a real simple answer. What did he do wrong?
What
did he do that nobody else has ever done?
The only time there was one incident that was on somebody's fault was Brad's first crash wherever that was in the first 15 laps when he punted, wherever that was.
Bulldozer Brad.
Yeah. That was the only incident where he shouldn't have been pushing and racing that hard. But other than that, every incident or crash in that race, I see no fault zone. That's just hard racing.
Yeah, he took out 7 other people in that one.
Yeah, that was the only time where it was at fault of somebody, I would say.
Yeah, and what had happened is he was pushing on the left side, going into a corner.
Yeah,
and of all people, he should know better than that.
Yeah.
You can't push the left corner of those cars going into the corners. It's just, you can't do it. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was the first race of the year, so I was really jacked about it no matter what. My takeaways were, again, I hadn't put an emphasis on the throttle percentage, but it's a good point. They couldn't pass. They could get the lines going.
What I was surprised about, because remember in the first year, we're in year 3 of this car?
Yeah, this is the 3rd year now.
Yeah, okay. The first year or 2, you couldn't do a third line in these cars on Daytona and Talladega. You couldn't make that third line because for some reason, the way that car pushed air off, you couldn't make that third line. What I was surprised watching this year, if they made that third line, it killed the first line, the low line. So everybody moved to the second and third line because the first didn't matter. So that was the only line was, yeah.
The low line was not the strong line. I agree with you there. I wonder if a lot of that has to do with the Toyota and Ford reconfiguration.
It's a lot of the reconfiguration alone on the cars, but yes. But there's a lot more they've done in the car off season probably. But yeah, I agree.
They didn't change the Chevys all that much.
Chevy's going to some other car.
I've seen rumors about going to Cadillac.
Just call it GM. Be done with it.
Right. I remember the days when.
Well, there's rumors about Honda too coming.
Yeah, well, those have been flying around for a while. I don't know what they're gonna race.
Honda Accord.
I think a lot of what my main complaint, and again, I'm not really complaining, was they just did a lot of riding around, not passing. But to me, it was still a good race. I really enjoyed it. We had enough action, not call it a demolition derby, although that one wreck was amazing. To have it on a Monday afternoon, evening, that was kind of cool. First time ever that NASCAR has had to do a double header on the same day, being a Monday at Daytona. I enjoyed it, but Willie B survived. He wasn't the fast. In my opinion, the fastest car on that racetrack was Kyle Busch.
Oh yeah, he could go in and out, up and down, front and back.
That boy, he commanded, and then after almost losing that wheel, that was an amazing piece of driving too.
Yeah,
to get all the way 2.5 miles. Once that wheel never did have the lug on it. It never did.
Yeah,
and he kept it on there. I'm assuming by staying just right on the banking to create enough pressure.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible. That I kept saying, "There's no way he's never gonna make it back. He's never gonna."
Well, they went to commercial. And I was on Twitter, and there Bob Pockris and whoever the other one is were tweeting about there's a lot of smoke coming from Kyle Busch, and that's why I'm like, oh, that's why I tweeted you. He blew an engine, And then all of a sudden, no, they said it's a loose tire. It's a loose tire. I'm like, oh, great, there goes Kyle. But
Yeah.
luckily, it was he salvaged it and he finished what 14th? No, I don't know where he.
Well, he got caught up in that last melee. He
Oh,
finished.
12th. He finished 12th.
Yeah. So, but that was. I don't care what anybody says. That he was the fastest car when they had their foot in it on the track. There's no two ways
Well, I
about
think
it.
after the tire thing, he was pissed, so he was trying to prove a point. Get back up there and lead.
Ross Chastain was racy all day. I was like you. I jumped in on a few conversations on social media about it. I don't think he did anything wrong, just like we had already discussed. It just he had a good shot of winning. I mean,
Well,
he was
he said in a post race interview, he said like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I had to make moves with like 8 to 10 laps to go. I've gotten better. I've gotten raced better equipment. I can now make a last lap race for the move for the win. I think that's a win. He's a guy. I see nothing wrong with it. I felt nothing wrong. Anybody would have done the same thing. They saw a gap like that.
yeah.
With a push like that.
I don't disagree. All right, that's kind of it overall. I liked Harvick in the booth. I really. Oh, speaking of which, one of my notes. They were running this weekend on FS1 several times. They've got a new documentary. I am Kevin Harvick. I don't know if you caught that or not.
The beginning of it, but I left. I didn't watch it now.
It was really good. It was. It went through all the way from him racing go-karts in California up to when he got the call after Earnhardt died. Um, I if you get a chance to watch it, I'm supposing it's probably up on YouTube now or somewhere, but uh, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really did. It was a really really good. Showed a lot of his personal life with his kids and uh Delaney. They had Delaney on there quite a bit. I used to when do you remember years ago when Logano got out of the car at I think it was Michigan and said he didn't know who wore the fire suit in the family,
Yeah.
And from that point forward, I was kind of in agreement with him. What a winch.
Yeah.
But she came off really good. She says, I never told him to retire. It was all his decision, what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, how he wanted to do it. But she also said, I'm awful glad he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was time. And getting the Fox gig in the booth didn't hurt anything either. So, all right, you had told me early on in the race a Hendricks car is going to win. Oh, one more thing before we go through this. The other thing that really irritated me about the race is why were the Toyotas so fast during speed weeks?
It was the same
They
thing
were
as like 2 years ago. Remember when Roush was all good, and when Keselowski won, they both won their duels. It's the same thing. I don't know.
They were. I mean, when they were in a pack during the duels, I mean, you had
Bell, Hamlin.
no, yeah, Bell and Reddick
Yeah.
each won their duels,
Yeah.
and they were. I don't know. In fact, for the fantasy league, which we'll get to happily in a little bit, I don't get to do this often. I made a whole Toyota lineup just based off of what I saw through the week. When they were in the pack, it didn't. I mean, it was amazing, and I think in Duel One, out of the top 10, 8 of them were Toyotas. It's now granted that last big melee took a bunch of them out, but I couldn't understand it. They didn't seem to have the speed. Maybe it was not the ability to work together. Uh, I mean, a Chevy wins stage one, a Ford wins stage two, being Blaney. Elliott won stage one, and of course, Elliott got caught up in that big crash, and Byron won. Bowman was second. But it was interesting. You had said early on in the race, a Hendricks car is going to win, and I'm
Well,
like,
you
you
texted
go.
me. You said Toyota's going up. No, it's gonna be a Hendrix car. And
I firmly believed that a Toyota was going to win. I really did.
and only reason I really said that is I think they had not more skin, but more to celebrate if they won because it was Hendrick's 40th anniversary of getting in the NASCAR, and that's why I said that.
Yeah, and wasn't it their how many wins?
It's their ninth tying the most all time.
Yeah,
They're tied for the most all time with 9 wins. I think it was at Daytona
at the 500.
500. Yeah. So next year,
Because I think
they have the
Dale
best
Senior,
chance to beat it.
I think Dale Senior won the summer race 9 times by himself. he kept killing it at the 400. All right. So anyway, like we said, Byron was one, Bowman was two, Bell, the top finishing Toyota, helped me out a ton. Was three. LaJoy was four. Bubba, who is always good, and I actually had him in my lineup. He helped me out. Well, he was fifth. AJ Allmendinger, he went a lap down and came back.
Yeah, it's Daytona. It's not hard to do that.
It's not hard, but Nemechek was seventh, which that was great seeing that for legend, and also Jones was eighth. So
It's Daytona. Anybody can
Legacy,
finish her.
well, Legacy had really two top tens.
Yeah.
Jimmy don't count, and I was kind of rooting for him, but they had both their cars literally in the top 10. Now that they're Toyota. Gregson was ninth. Briscoe was 10th. Larson 11th. Kyle Busch, who, like I said, I still say he was the fastest car on the track, was 12th. 13th was Zane Smith. Not bad debut for him. 14th was Elliott. Truex was 15th. Just hit the high notes here. Ty Gibbs, 17th. Busher, 18th. Hamlin, crybaby Hamlin, was 19th. Then you had the first of the people that were wrecking. You had Chastain in 21st, and I'm just going high people of note here. Of course, Jimmy Johnson in 28th. He got taken out early. Reddick, same thing. Blaney in 30th. Logano in 32nd. Keselowski 33rd. McDowell, your outside pole sitter, he had engine problems. I think he was running on like 7 cylinders or something. He said he had no power. He was 36, 24 laps down. Austin Dillon, please, Grandpa, get him out of that goddamn car. Get him out of that. You need to find somebody else to carry the colors on the three. Make a third team, give it to Austin, but put somebody that knows what they're doing in the 3 car. He finishes 37th. So that's kind of a recap, just some fun facts. The race ran 3 hours and 10 minutes, but that was with a 15-minute
Red flag.
yeah, 15 minutes and 27-second red flag on that big melee. There were 41 lead changes, which in the old days that would be about normal. But with this new car over the last 2 years, they haven't had that many lead changes, and I thought that was kind of cool. It looks like everybody took a turn. Um, let's see. Failed to qualify. The only ones were BJ McLeod and JJ Yaley. So that kind of covers that. Like I said, let me see here. there were 20 leaders for, I should clarify that. There were 20 different leaders for 41 times. There was 5 cautions for 20 laps. You had the first melee that, and it's funny because Logano's not even listed in this because he hit and run. There was 2, 4, 6, 7 cars involved in that one. And then, of course, you had the 2 stage conclusions. And then you had the big one at lap 193. That was your red flag. There was 18 people involved in that one. And then they say it was a caution, but it was on the white flag lap, and that's when Chastain and Cindric got together. So, like I said, I enjoyed the truck race. Who Nick Sanchez won that one, and Austin Hill won the Xfinity race, and that was kind of cool. And I think what's his face, Google Eyes, that came from Joe Gibbs was second place. He's racing. God, I can see his face. He's got those big old black rimmed glasses. But
Sheldon Creed.
anyway, Creed. Yeah, I think he was second.
Oh yes, Sheldon Creed.
Okay, so that was kind of good. He racing for Joe Gibbs now. And the only other,
Well, he just left the team who he said didn't have the equipment, was holding him back. He left Richard Childress Racing,
Austin
and they
Hill
won.
And
so,
they won.
So make that's null and void.
Well,
comment. He said, "Well, the equipment was holding me back." Well, I mean, he just won.
If you noticed during the race, Andy Petrie, he didn't have anything really negative to say about Creed, but he wasn't singing his praises like, man, I'm so sad we lost him or whatever. But whatever. And the other notable is after the race, and I don't know because we don't do too much on the Xfinity where he finished, but David Starr was DQ'd after the race for track bar height. So that's that. The duels, they had a great ratings. They were up like 150,000, 1.6 mil, which is good because I was whining about when they broadcast it, but they seem to know what they're doing there. And Jimmy Johnson, another little fun fact. I don't know how much it means in the scheme of things, but he's the only Hall of Famer that's in the Hall of Fame to ever race the Daytona 500. I was like, well, okay. We talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about that and that. Did you see the big crash on? I think it was Sunday. The jet dryers got into an accident on track.
That was Monday morning. I was about to send that, but I'm like, hey, everybody knows it about by now. But yeah.
Of course, the insinuation is with Montoya driving one of them. But I thought that was hilarious. They crashed. How do you do that? Unless one of them was going so slow it lost traction and slipped down the track, but it looked like the bottom truck was turned up. Like he ran into the track.
I was gonna send you a picture of it and see what happened. I'm like, is Juan Pablo racing? Or he didn't drive those trucks?
Yep. You know, another thing that kind of interested me, and I've seen some comments where they used to do this, but and I don't, in my recollection, remember ever when they were paying points for the duels. I don't remember that. Somebody said they used to do it. I'm like, I don't know when, because I've been watching the duels for the better part of 40 years, and I don't remember watching or seeing where it was always for Duel 1 was for the first row lineup, and Duel 2 was always for the second row lineup after the, pole sitter and outside front row was decided. I don't ever remember them paying points.
Yeah, I don't remember. So I was.
And
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I saw something and I saw it twice, and I don't know if it's fake or not, but they're talking about changing the name of the trophy from the Earl J. Harley to Dale Earnhardt. Have you seen or heard anything about that? I haven't. I'm like, and of course it's on social media, so you always got to scrutinize.
Yeah.
Uh, but they're saying for 2025, and I'm like, I think that would be a big, big, big deal. It's
Well,
been
if
the
you're gonna
Earl
do
J.
that, you better do like I don't know. You can't do it. No, because that trophy is always iconic. You can't get rid of that trophy. Rename it. It doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. I don't think it's true, but I just thought I'd toss it out there.
Or maybe do like what the end of the Super Bowl does. Like there's a winner, but then there's an MVP type thing. But like you can't say the winner's not an MVP. But you can see like now you can say, oh, Kyle Busch MVP. He was at the best car type thing, and that could be the Dale Earnhardt MVP car.
Well, I think his move to not lose that wheel was an MVP
Yeah.
move. That was just I
Yeah.
was amazed. But I haven't seen a penalties report. The only thing I saw was Willie B passed post race inspection and was certified as the winner.
So as we were talking earlier, the first thing is I was looking up NASCAR news, and one of the first thing it came up as reads NASCAR is looking into slow pace of Daytona 500.
They should.
The slow pace early in Daytona 500 did not go unnoticed by NASCAR, and the circumstances leading to that will be reviewed. In the NASCAR's first stage, the field slowed its pace down dramatically when it's going into fuel-saving mode. Typically, full-speed laps around Daytona is between 46 and 47 seconds. When they slowed down, they were into the over 50 seconds. So they slowed down probably 5 seconds. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what he said. When I was laughing, well, in my head I was laughing because you were talking. It's something we're looking into. Ultimately, we want to drop the green flag on the race, and they're racing as hard as they can until we drop the checkered flag. I'm like, that's not true. If that's true, you wouldn't be putting limits on all this other shit. There's some strategy in between there. We'll definitely take a much deeper dive at this particular situation and the strategy that goes into it.
I wonder if it's like a silent, nobody's speaking about it protest from drivers about the car and the stages and all that. Do you remember it was Talladega when they had that stupid ass wing and they just rode around in single file all day long?
They just know if they turned around, they'd fly. That
Yeah.
wing would make them, so they didn't want to risk it.
Yep. Tony Stewart led the charge on that when it was kind of a silent whisper campaign. And it wasn't very long after that they came up with a new idea. And I'm just wondering, I don't want to belabor the point, but the more I'm thinking about it as we're talking, the more if they noticed it, you noticed it, I kind of noticed it. They've overregulated, overruled these cars so much. And it's got to stop. Everything's got to be fair and an even playing field. No, it doesn't. That's what NASCAR was all about. Who could put the best piece together and make it go faster than anybody else, and then let the other guys figure it out. It's I just this everybody's got to have the same piece, and you got to have a charter so you're guaranteed. No, I want anybody that wants to put has enough money to put a car together, whether they got sponsorship or not, if they can put something on the track that goes faster than William Byron, they ought to be able to do it. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Why NASCAR has done this to themselves. But they have, so
Yeah, they need to take a step back, but how do they do that? Like a fresh start off the year, like that's your time to do it, not mid-season, not after Daytona, but like they still have chances to do it, but like they need to step back.
they need to just trash this car and go back to real cars. Take that belly pan off. Let the mechanics and the engineers build the motors. And why do they have? I mean, literally, the only difference now is the emblem on the front. I mean, obviously the configuration of the body style, but that's always been. I can remember years and years ago where Jack Roush was whining when they were driving Thunderbirds that I think at the time Chevy had Monte Carlo and they had 2 entries in there. Dodge had 2 entries in there.
Well, there was Pontiac and
Yeah, that was it. But they were whining, and at the time, the powers that be, and this is when Bill France was still around. Uh, it's like, okay, you don't like it, figure it out. Don't whine about it. It's unfair and it's uneven. You're the one that chose to go with the Ford sponsorship, so you don't like it. Do something about it.
yeah.
And that's the way it should be. I get the whole bigger teams got more money, can do more things kind of attitude, but there's a lot of very smart guys that just don't get noticed and they don't get recognized and they can do some things. Like I said, if Honda wants to bring in a car and thinks they can be competitive,
Honda
I'd rather
has the motors to do it because a lot of the F1 cars are Honda. The motor
oh,
that's
they've got
yeah,
got the technology.
yeah, but what car are you gonna put it in? I don't know.
Yeah. But bring what you run. Whatever, put it in there. If it's not competitive, invent something. I just don't like that everything one vendor. I mean, you got one vendor for the louvers. So that means they're going in Fords, Toyotas, and Chevys. There's no difference. Well, then you get into the whole discussion about why are them louvers there? Well, that's because they got the belly pan on the damn thing, so air can't go out. They had this year. Did you know they put a little slit in the windshield so air could go through instead of having to all get forced underneath?
They had that last year.
Oh, I thought it was this year they put
It was
that
to
in
help
there.
with cooling of the car too, because it's getting really hot
Yeah,
inside.
yeah, but no, that was that little box
This is
that
the top of the windshield. It looks like a little rectangle on top of the windshield.
okay.
Yeah, that was
I
their
thought
last
they
year.
did that this year,
Yeah.
but and they say those cars are so stiff, but we need to quit complaining and move on. Um, I don't think it's ever going to come back until people's still the way it was and or should be until some people do some things or upper management gets replaced as they should. So, one more little tidbit and we'll work on to Atlanta. Uh I don't for those of you that hopefully are listening to us for the first time in a long time, I actually beat my son in fantasy league racing. He texted me after the race. Well, you won, savor it. And I'm like, yeah, I will, because it don't happen that often.
If it wasn't for wasn't for Brad getting taken out, I probably would have been all right.
I went with all Toyotas. Every single one of I had Bell and
I don't even know who I had, but
Wallace,
I did have Wallace in there.
Denny, Martin, and who was the other one? Wasn't Jimmy. Anyway, I went with all. In fact, I started out with Bubba in the
Yeah, if
garage.
Brad didn't get taken out, I'd have been a lot better off.
So and we got a third guy in there, Desert Driver or
Yeah,
somebody like.
Desert Driver. I don't know who that is, but he joined.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell your friends.
I
Get
don't
more
I
in.
don't know if that's from listening, watching, or social media pages, but someone's in.
Hopefully, he's having a good time.
He picked
If
some
you're
really bad
if it's
drivers.
yeah yeah, if you're listening to this, let us know who you are.
He picked all Toyotas besides one.
Did he?
Hamlin, no, that's not true. He had Hamlin, Cindric, which was a good choice until he got taken out. Then Bell, then Reddick, and then McDowell, and then he had Harrison in the garage.
Ah, I should have. Well, at the time, Harrison probably wasn't a good choice.
Well, he still finished 36, so he crashed out.
Yeah.
Harrison McDowell, he had all of them. Not a good week, but Daytona's always a throwaway.
Yeah. Who in the hell, if you were trying to pick the perfect five for $10,000, which is that would on NASCAR for Daytona only, if you're the number one person. Oh, and I got smoked on the head to heads too. I think I only got one of them right. But who would have put, Allmendinger, Nemechek, Jones, Gregson, Briscoe? Briscoe might have been a good choice.
Okay, so there was a lot of people who tied for first with 238 points. And in my other league with my random one I make, I can look to see what that is. And I can tell you who they picked. For 238 points, they picked Byron, Elliott, Bowman, Larson. So they did all the Hendrick and then Kyle Busch. That was their
That's
lineup.
not bad. And another reason I stayed away from Hendricks was for future picks. Again, you got to manage this league a little bit. But all right, Atlanta. Uh I'm just gonna do as I always do, the top 10 average finish for the last 10 years or 10 races. Uh so that would be 5 years. Your top guys are Truex, Keselowski, and Kyle Busch with 7 top tens. Of them, Keselowski is your man with 2 wins. After that, you got Elliott and Blaney with 6 top tens. Each of them have a win. Logano and Harvick, which doesn't matter anymore, has 5 top tens and a win.
Mind you, this is a
Uh,
different Atlanta, too, because it's the Super Speedway Atlanta.
yeah. Well, it's been like that for what, 3 years now? 3 or 4?
I think it's been 2.
All right.
I think. I could be wrong.
9 and 10 are Suarez and Hamlin with 4 each, no wins. And I'll go to 12 because Kurt Busch was in that top thing. I don't know why they don't get him out of active driver status. But Bowman and Larson each with 3 top tens. And if I filter it over to wins, come on now, keep up with me. You got Keselowski and Byron with 2, Blaney, Elliott, and Logano with 1. So of active drivers, you've only got 6 with wins at Atlanta in the last 5 years. So that's your fantasy league highlights or people you should look at. And
Well,
it's 400 miles. I think this week Kyle Busch gets in a truck at Atlanta
yeah, there's
for
rumblings.
Spire.
I've heard there's
I
rumblings. Well, it's the first
so
time he
I
hasn't raced his own truck in 15 years.
yeah, I think it's kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool. So Who's your prediction for Atlanta? Excuse me. Uh,
Mm,
dark horse first and winner.
our course first. Oh, I have to bring up the standings because they got to be under 25th in points.
Yeah.
This actually might be easy because of people crashing out of Daytona. All right. Dark horse. Joey
Yeah.
Logano. He's 30th in points.
All right, you're taking Logano 22.
The
I'm taking Keselowski in 6. I'm telling you, he's gonna get a win this year.
in the win, I'm gonna say Elliott. He's gonna come out hot.
Ah, can I do Kesel? Yeah, I
You
can.
can, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going with Keselowski as the winner as well.
You're gonna go dark horse and him for both.
Yeah, I can't lose. Hey, I can win both of these things right out the bat.
We can lose both real quick.
I can. He was strong, and he's hungry. What was the stat? It's been like 90 some races since he's won a race
He hasn't been raced. He hasn't won a race.
for RFK yet.
This is his 3rd year in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while.
And he wasn't winning much at Penske when he left. I'm sure you're looking that up.
Last win 2021 at Talladega.
So yeah, it's probably been 70, 80 races anyway. All right. Keep it short and sweet. I don't have anything else. I haven't seen any news blurbs come up. I haven't seen any penalties assessed. Uh, body guys are busy this week, that's for sure.
Oh, those cars they split it in 3 anyway, so just cut off the front, cut off the back, keep what's still salvageable.
Yep. So, with that, unless you got anything else, I'll do our end of the thing spiel. Where are we at now? Are we just on YouTube?
No, we're everywhere. The Spotify stuff doesn't it lasts for at least another 6 months.
All right. Well, then you tell them where we at.
Anywhere you can get a podcast, essentially. YouTube is doing a new thing. I don't know if that's helping or not because when I upload a podcast, it was just a video, like a normal video, but it asked me if this is a podcast, and I say yes. So I think it puts it on YouTube podcast. I don't know. Puts it its own YouTube audio or you podcast playlist. So it goes in 2 different playlists when I upload to YouTube. But
That's cool.
yeah, that just recently happened. So I actually hasn't researched it, but I noticed it asked me if it's a podcast and it puts in its own thing. So I don't know if they have their own podcast audio section on YouTube, but that's one of them. But any audio podcast platform there is, it's there's Spotify is the main one everybody uses, and there's iHeartRadio. I have it on Amazon. Any one of them that are I can try to look at the website. Logs me in. The ones I have linked.
While you're doing that, join us on our fantasy league. It's Burn It Down NASCAR podcast. Let them race. Do what Desert Driver did and get in there with us, and we'll talk about you. We've got our own Facebook page, which isn't very active because people aren't there, and then we've also got True NASCAR Fans. That's starting to get a little bit of traction too. So
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of the ones off the top of my head. There's Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, iHeart, maybe one or two other ones, but any audio platform available that's host podcasts we're on. So
Okay.
they're there. I got to do search.
All righty. So with that, I think I've had enough.
All right.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week after Atlanta.